Hey there! I hope you have dusted off your tap shoes and I hope you are ready for this musical theater extravaganza. We cannot study the modern history of theater, without taking a little detour and studying the history of the American musical. It does have a huge impact on the world of theater in general, and we're going to spend the next 2 weeks diving into it. So warm up your vocal cords, me, la, la. We're going to get ready and dive into the world of musical theater. So, even though the ancient Greeks had plays with songs in them, and the Romans also included song and dance routines, and some parts of the Middle Ages even had music in their religious plays, we really didn't, musical theater wasn't really influenced by anything from way back then. The influences on musical theater as we know it began in the 1800s with the operettas that were being written in France and in Vienna. Um, so the contemporary Broadway musical, as we know it, took its form from operetta. And operetta is kind of what it sounds like, sort of like a mini opera. Opera itself is very grand, very overarching themes. The music is very, very grand, very dramatic. And operetta is sort of like opera light. It's a little bit like easier to take in a sense. So these operettas became very popular in America, um, and kind of were what became the American musical. So that's where we got the form from. Um, but we got the comic soul of the American musical came from the variety entertainments that initially entertained and delighted American audiences during the mid 1800s. And unfortunately, that comedy aspect had a bit of a crude beginning, because really it began as a variety shows and minstrel shows. And minstrel shows are infamously known for white actors performing in blackface, which is an unfortunate and sad part of our history, that this was what was entertaining in America in the mid 1800s. But that is the comic form that eventually gave way to more refined, fortunately, pleasures of vaudeville, and then eventually a rowdier version, which was burlesque. Um, and then eventually, we had all it takes really is this one hit show. And one hit show in 1860 was called The Black Crook. And we'll never see a revival of it today. It's not something that really stood the test of time. But it really opened the way for the development of American musicals, because it was, in a true sense, an actual musical. And it was so popular that, again, all it takes is one hit show, and other people wanted to say, "Hey, this show was a hit. This show made money. Let's replicate it and make more things like that." And it paved the way for um, these operettas to continue to grow in America. And Gilbert and Sullivan were the two men that stepped up and began writing very, very, very popular comic operettas. They wrote them between the years of 1871 and 1896. Their operettas were witty, funny, tuneful. They had very catchy songs. They were exquisitely produced, beautiful sets, gorgeous costumes. And they were really leading the new standards of theatrical production in America at that time. After Gilbert and Sullivan and their comic operettas, theater in the United States was redefined. So, on the next slide, I'm going to share with you a clip from one of Gilbert and Sullivan's operettas. It's called The Pirates of Penzance. It is something that is still produced to this day. People are still doing productions of it, So it has truly stood the test of time. I have to say I'm a bit biased. The Pirates of Penzance was the first professional acting gig I ever got. I played one of the daughters. So let me tell you about this clip that you're about to see. This is actually from a film version of the Pirates of Penzance that I think was made in the 1980s. So it's not going to look very 1800s. It's going to look a little 1980s. But they didn't change anything. So, like, the words of the song are still all the same. And, you know, the costumes are still pretty much what you probably would have seen in the 1800s ish. So you're going to see this song from Pirates of Penzance. It's a song called I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General. And if you're a Hamilton fan, you might recognize that line because Hamilton makes a reference to that line. Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote a reference to that line. He has George Washington, the character of George Washington in Hamilton, raps that line, that he's the model of a modern major general. But that's a direct reference to this classic song from Gilbert and Sullivan's Pirates of Penzance. So basically here you have some pirates who have attacked some maidens in distress, and it's meant to be very comic and very funny and very light, and it's very operatic, the style of singing, and they interrupt the pirates and they say, "But wait, 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 you cannot attack us. Our father is a major general." And then he shows up and says, "Yes, yes, I'm a major general." And he sings a very famous song that you may or may not recognize about being a major general. So enjoy this song from the Pirates of Penzance. It's on the next slide.